Hi guys, and welcome to another Bucs Banter episode with me, your host Dan, and my guest for Simon Conboy.
Sup?
And we're going to be covering last night's, I suppose messy is the word, messy game of Tampa Bay at the Cardinals. We might as well start off with the first half of the game. It was not the way you expected it. It looked like it was going to be a shutout within the first half. So let's talk about the lack of the Bucs executing anything in that first half.
Well, the offense wasn't horrific in the first half. It was just the defense just didn't turn up. There was bad execution on just about everything. The first couple of drives, they couldn't contain the outside whatsoever. There was one play in particular where you had Peterson going up like through one of the A or the B gaps, like an inside designed run, and the defensive end comes crashing in too hard. Peterson goes to cut it outside, and then Hargraves has also cut inside too much, and he gets outside, and Chris Conti has taken a horrible angle, and he gets about 20 yards on a run that probably shouldn't have really got anything. Like, you've got the right play call there. You've just got to execute. Even if you one guy executes competently there, you limit that run significantly. The first touchdown run was a similar thing. A run up the middle. Defensive line does its job, and then it looked to me like it was the middle linebacker, Beckwith, the rookie. He hits the wrong gap, which is already being filled by another linebacker, and as a result there's a big hole up the middle. Peterson just runs through that. It was the touchdown to the zones were so soft for some reason. There were just massive busts in coverage. It was as bad a defensive performance in the first half as you'll ever see. Yes.
Yeah, do you think that maybe they overplanned to deal with Adrian Peterson, do you suspect?
No, I just think the players played like idiots. There's not really much more to it. I mean, it's just mental errors, like basic mental errors.
Yeah, I mean, even as a Cardinals fan, colour me surprised that the defensive performance in the first quarter was lackluster, to say the least. I fully expected you to bring all the pressure on Carson Palmer and try and hold that run game in place, but the defence just couldn't execute anything. And the same could be said for the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what was going on in that first half.
The offense, I don't think it wasn't good in the first half, but it wasn't a disaster. Basically, the run got shut down. The Cardinals were just showing blitzes. Jameis hurt his shoulder on that first drive on the hit on running to the outside from Jones. So I think maybe you can put some of the offense, like the passing struggles after that, on the fact his shoulder was a bit injured, but they couldn't run. Once again, this team just doesn't deal with blitzes particularly well, which has been a big problem. Dirk Cutter still hasn't really adjusted to the fact that this Bucs team is an intermediate and deep passing team. It's very similar to the Cardinals in that way. You will not see much in the way of dump offs, but they've got to adjust to it better. And both teams have had that same problem this year, frankly, and neither team's looked to adjust it enough. But yeah, I mean, really, the blame has to lie on the offense, the defense primarily, but the offense didn't exactly cover itself in glory.
No, I would say not. And of all the teams to fail at picking up blitzes against, the Cardinals are a bad team for that to happen. Also, your pick just
it's not the blitz pickup. The pickup was okay. Like, the line blocked a lot of it okay. It's just the inherent play design is a problem when you've got everyone running short to deep routes. You've not got anything easy and quick to hit. And Jameis isn't always the quickest on the blitz pickup reads either, but he doesn't get much help from our scheme at the moment.
No, just in case people are watching wondering what's happening, Skype has dropped the pick jump for Conboy, but not the sound. So this isn't. I think this is Skype having a paddy after last week's failed podcast.
Skype was that behaved last week. It was everything else that messed up, weren't it?
Oh no, Skype's misbehaving as well. But anyway, we'll get on to more pressing issues. And so after the first half, which I think at that point, I think most Cardinals fans were like, yeah, it's done. You know, the first half, Peterson, Fitzgerald, they've had themselves a game. Probably going to continue in the second. Third quarter, again, not much really happened, and then the fourth happened. I think the Bucs put up 27 points in 15 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the third quarter, I mean, the Bucs did have a chance at the end of that second half to get themselves back into the game. It would have still been tough, but, you know, they had that failed fourth down in the red zone. And that was a bad throw by Fitzpatrick. That was just a little drag route to Mike Evans, and he just threw it behind him. But that should have been an easy touchdown. And then, you know, you start with the ball at the start of the second half. You get 7 points there. You're down 10. You've still got a ways to go, but the game isn't flat out over at that point. But instead, we fluff up the fourth down and then come out and throw an immediate interception and then give up a quick touchdown. It's putting them in a 31-0 hole. And yeah, I mean, at that point, and that was a terrible throw by Fitzpatrick from that pick as well. That was just a heave into double coverage. So that was also terrible. But then that's where the game got weird from that point, when the Cardinals just... The offensive line started to struggle and looked like it had the rest of the season. They were playing terribly from that point on. Peterson didn't find much room at all. They were holding constantly, getting flagged for it. Started to get some pressure on Palmer, bringing just 4. And the Cardinals couldn't sustain anything, which of course is why the Buccaneers were able to get so many points. And Patrick Peterson left the game with a quad, and all of a sudden the Cardinals couldn't stop the Buccaneers at all. Frankly, you know, really in the end, it shouldn't have ended up being such a big play, but the interception after the punt down to the 1 yard line basically ended up sealing the game, and that was just when the Bucs had got them into a position where if they'd scored on that drive, it was a 1-possession game.
Yeah, I mean, based on the numbers in the first half, there was like a real danger of a repeat of last year occurring, and Adrian Peterson, you know, in his new shiny Cardinals jersey, going for like nearly 200 yards if it had kept up. It's second half, the Cardinals just remembered halfway through that, oh yeah, we're the Cardinals.
Well, beyond the first 3 drives, even Peterson didn't have a huge amount of success in this game. I think he had like 90 yards on the first 3 drives, and then you look at the rest of the game, 40.
I think at the half, I think he was close to 90 yards. I think for that first half, nearly 100. I think, if I remember correctly. And obviously Fitzgerald had himself a game as well. Why? We actually talked about it.
But then in the second half, all he did in the second half was fumble and give up a touchdown.
Yeah, Fitz has at least one moment. Once or twice a year, Fitz fumbles. It's really odd. Although,
it's a summary of, if you want to summarise like how that second half was execution-wise for the Cardinals, it's Larry Fitzgerald fumbling and giving up a touchdown of all people.
Yeah, but while we're on the subject of Fitzgerald, actually, can we talk about how the Buccaneers apparently left Fitz pretty much untouched for?
Well, it wasn't just Fitz; it was everything. The second touchdown to Nicholas, the backup tight end, it was the same thing. They were giving guys free releases off the line of scrimmage, and there were just coverage busts all over the place. The Fitz touchdown, you know, it was just a play action, and TJ Ward just flies past him to the line of scrimmage. It's just horrible busts everywhere. The aforementioned one where you had Brent Grimes going down the field with Brown with the safety there as well, and then you just got Fitz on his own. It was just like that consistently. There was another one where he's in the left slot and 2 linebackers go with the same player, and you know, these are the sorts of things that this is the reason, you know, that the Patriots were struggling early on in the year. That these kind of basic coverage breakdowns, and particularly in zone coverage, it's that much more noticeable.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, of all the people though to not cover properly, you know, a Hall of Famer You know, with
Well,
like the best hands in the league, is probably not the guy you should be
I mean,
leaving uncovered.
I think the play that summed this game up best was the John Brown touchdown, where Palmer makes a horrible decision under pressure and just sort of flings it out to the right-hand side of the field toward the sideline to Brown. You got the Buccaneers safety Justin Evans there, and he should probably pick this ball off because it's just, it's a little lofty because he's been hit as he throws it like wounded duck. And he doesn't locate the ball at all, runs back into the end zone for some reason, and John Brown has an easy catch and touchdown, where really that play should probably be a pick six. I mean, at least a pick. Definitely not completed for a touchdown. And
yeah, I think
that summed up this game as a whole. Both teams executed badly. The Cardinals just had a little bit more rub of the green over the course of the day, because in spite of the first half going the way it did and the second half going the way it did, there were a lot of moments in this game that ended up being significant. That aforementioned interception at the 1 yard line, that was a strange one because it was caught simultaneously, and it's because of the way the two players go down. Evans, because the Cardinals players going down to the ground and Evans is still stood up, one of Evans' arms comes away from the ball, even though he's still got a solid grip on it with the other hand, and that's enough to give the defender the possession there. Whereas if Evans keeps both his hands on it throughout the process, then it would have been deemed an offensive catch.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, as the ruling goes, is
offensive player gets precedence.
Yeah, the offensive guy gets precedence, but we could debate whether or not that should actually be the way it is. But regardless,
well,
I think miscommunication.
It's not clear. It's that that's one of those examples of a small situation where just a tiny little thing makes a big difference. You also had, I thought this was a bit of, I didn't think the refs got this one right, but the Bucs probably couldn't challenge it. You had the botch snap at the goal line, and I thought Chris Baker had a clear recovery to me, but the Cardinals managed to get the file. But to me, I thought, especially when you saw the replays, I think you see Chris Baker's got the ball with possession first. But
yeah, but every NFL fan knows that that's not how it works underneath that pile. There's a lot going on down there.
Well, the problem is the pile, it's one of those. It's how they rule it in the first place. And if they'd ruled it with Baker having it, I think it was one of those where the replay couldn't prove either way. So you can even argue the same thing for the Fitz fumble, and
yeah, that's fair.
That was pretty close as well. But that's what this game was. It was just a really badly played game in the end. But he just kind of edged the Cardinals' way in the end. And of course, Jameis Winston getting hurt on a play where, to me, Chandler Jones looks offside. Like, that's another example of it's the little things in this game that ended up being really oddly big. And
yeah, we'll get on to the Jameis thing in a second, actually. But I think, generally speaking, I think this game just had all of these different microcosms of just.
Well,
I don't even know how to describe what was going on. I mean, Cardinals' first half, man, they executed in every phase of the game. But then, as time wore on, I don't know. I don't know if it.
You see it often. Teams kind of get comfortable, but to me, and this is what I still stand by the assessment that we made last week that the Cardinals are a bad team. I still think that's the case, but I'm now starting to come around that this Bucs team, unless they can find some consistency, they're a bad team as well. Right?
And speaking of consistency,
these teams are just they don't look particularly good to me at this point in time.
No, and as I said, speaking of consistency, let's get on to Jameis. Obviously, he left early with what was it? An injury, shoulder injury, and obviously Fitzpatrick stepped in to finish the game off. Let's talk about Jameis's performance before the injury. I'm guessing you probably weren't happy with what you saw. There seemed to be a lot of.
Not really. I thought he looked okay. He didn't.
He didn't he couldn't even get within field goal range.
It's not all on the quarterback. Couldn't run the ball. That was the problem. Made a few nice throws, but yeah,
Okay.
It wasn't a huge amount of throws. He didn't make any glaring errors. There was one play that was a bit frustrating on my end where Buccaneers went max protect, had 3 receivers on the route. James ended up having to throw the ball away, but that's on the receivers not getting open. So
well,
I don't think Jameis was the problem before, like, to this lead getting out of hand early. I mean, the defense couldn't do a thing. Struggled to run on those initial drives, and I still stand by this offense. It starts. I can't remember the last time this team had a really fast start in a game. I think you had maybe the Bears game, and that's about it.
Oh, here's a
we're
question.
going back seasons now. It's been a problem for a long time.
Oh no, I know. But here's an interesting question I'd like to raise. If Jameis doesn't go down with a shoulder injury, do you think realistically he could have led the same attempted comeback that Fitzpatrick did? Because I've seen a lot of things from Jameis, since he's been in the league, but overcoming the odds and cutting a 31-point deficit down is not something I believed he would be able to do.
You've got to bear in mind, no one's ever cut a 31-point deficit, so that's kind of a redundant question. That's never happened. So, but no, Jameis has, I think, 8 or 9 come from behind wins in his career. That's quite a lot for a guy in his 3rd year.
Yeah, but I think the question's that, with considering how hot and cold he's been this season, do you think he would have been able to perform the same as Fitzpatrick does, who apparently, and I agree with Bruce Arians on this, apparently he's like the best quarterback in the league if he's playing from behind in the 4th quarter. Then he's like the best quarterback in the league.
Fitzpatrick was not good in this game. I mean, the interceptions he threw were both really poor, and there were several missed throws on the field. I mentioned the touchdown to, what should have been a touchdown to Mike Evans at the end of the 2nd quarter. Like, he wasn't really bad in this game, but he was off on a lot of throws. If anything, like the weird thing is that there were opportunities for the Buccaneers to win this game, which there absolutely shouldn't have been. But yeah, he was off on a lot of throws.
Oh, I'll put that down just to the Cardinals' defense. I mean, I thought they did a good job the first half.
This was just a game where I really, you're going to have people saying, oh, the Cardinals looked really good in the first half, and the Buccaneers looked really good in the second half. I don't think it should be analysed that way, because I think when you look at the film, you just see 2 teams executing badly at different stages, and
definitely.
Only point, but these teams both were just really sloppy in this game. And rewatching it today made me it was even worse than I initially suspected. Like, that's how bad it was, and I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
Both of these coaches will be pulling their hair out.
Oh no, I have no doubt.
But he'll be throwing his hat.
Yeah, I was going to say Bruce Arians has no hair.
Yeah.
Right, hold on. We have a transmission from the interwebs from a Mr. Lee Chapman. Even Jay Cutler managed to lead a comeback. Yeah, but it's Jay Cutler.
You can make the argument that if the Buccaneers defence had gave up 0 points in the second half, like the Dolphins won, the Bucs also would have won. So.
Yeah, this is true.
Dolphins defence has been playing very well. The Buccaneers won not so much.
No, I mean, speaking of defences, I don't have a Cardinals chat like you and Arnie do with scheduled programming, but I've been impressed with Justin Bethel. He yet again had himself a very good game, considering he's playing. He's playing on the weaker side of the field, opposite Patrick Peterson. He seems to have really stepped up.
He's not a total liability, but
no, but he's
I've
better
not
than
seen
I
him.
thought he would be.
He's not. He's just a guy, in my opinion. I mean, but they need options. I mean, you saw what happened yesterday when Peterson left the game. They got shredded.
Hold on, I've got another.
And also, the big issue I think as well is that Tyrann Mathieu really not played well these last few games. Tyvon Branch is really well. The other safety, Tyvon Branch is playing very well this season, but Tyrann Mathieu's struggling.
Yeah, he has been quiet. Hold on, I've got another thing in chat. I don't think a team has scored more than 20 on the Finns D yet, but that's all it takes to beat us at the moment with our offense. It would help if your offense turned up. I agree.
The Dolphins are the epitome of an unbalanced team.
They're the epitome of a Jay Cutler-led team. Decent D, offense can't do diddly poo.
Cutler played pretty well in that second half.
It still doesn't forgive the shutout. Anyway, this is not Dolphins or Cardinals. This is Bucs Banter. So right. Well, we'll start getting to the wrap up. Bar the massive inconsistency that the Bucs keep displaying week to week, is there anything additional you've taken away from this game?
There's not really a lot you can take away from this game. Like, I mean, it is demonstrated all the issues that we know the Buccaneers have, and it demonstrated that there's a lot of weapons when the offense does get going. I mean, the Bucs can take some. I've seen some criticism on the internet of OJ Howard, and I think that's a bit of a strange one because Cameron Brate is really good. It turns out, I think he's having a great season. He set a Buccaneers record yesterday, by the way. First Buccaneer to catch 4 touchdowns in 4 straight games. Well, 1 touchdown in 4 straight games. So that's he's been very impressive this year. He's turned into a real weapon for this team. Evans and Jackson were kept quiet until toward the end of the game, so that's a problem. They've struggled to get those 2 involved enough.
It does seem a bit odd.
Again, for the most part, like whilst he was struggling early, that came more down to the offensive line and what the Cardinals were doing. But he looks explosive. He's looking good running. But yeah, defensively, I'm more concerned for this Buccaneers team at the moment. The secondary is really, really poor. The few games where we've had these like really soft breakdowns in zones, Vernon Hargreaves is not playing at all well. It's concerning to say the least, and the rush wasn't there until late in this game yesterday. So,
well, on the bright side, we did have your boy Larry was cited, if I remember correctly.
Levante, made a big play. He got his token touchdown. He gets at least one every year, and that may be his one for this year. But it was good to have him back on the field. Team needs Quan Alexander back. I think they've certainly missed having the middle linebacker there. I think we'll see the defense play significantly better when he does get back. If you remember last year, when the Buccaneers were horrific early in the season defensively, Quan Alexander was suspended for 4 games. So there are a lot, and this is something I was going to mention, I kind of forgot, so I'm glad I just remembered it now. There's some weird, eerie parallels between the Bucs last year and this year, because we were 2-3 at this stage last year, having lost a stupid game to the Rams. And then we kind of turned it around, but the really slow start to the year, which was very, in terms of the way we were playing, a lot like this one, where we couldn't cover anyone, and the offense was incredibly inconsistent. We then sort of turned it around, but the bad start doomed us, and it was too little too late. I'm getting a weird sense of deja vu with this Bucs team, where they'll begin to turn it around and end up just missing or something like that.
Maybe you're just cursed against NFC West teams. Although that actually plays into a question we've got in the chat, which is, do you think there's a head coach change on the horizon, or is it too early to say? And I'd also extend this to your offensive and defensive coordinators. Thoughts?
Far too early to say. I think one of the things that you've got to bear in mind, and I think this extends to a lot of the other younger teams in the league, is the average age on this Buccaneer team is incredibly low. There is not a lot of experience at all, almost across the board, particularly offensively, where you're looking at a very large amount of sort of second, third, and fourth year players. So I think that's what tends to lead to a lot of these types of inconsistencies, I think, and mental errors. I mean, I have been very critical of Dirk Cutter in terms of his in-game management, and some of the game planning just seems we seem very slow in terms of making adjustments. So there's definitely got to be something looked into if things continue in this vein, because there are times where it does look like a badly coached team.
Yeah, I think the Bucs and the Titans share that parallel. I think we both look like badly coached teams at points. I'd also argue that the Bucs have got the hard knocks curse on them. It doesn't seem the team that's ever on that show ever does well in the proceedings in the next season.
There have been teams that have done well off it.
I've never seen one.
There haven't been any recently, but
no.
Bear in mind, the show's been going a long time.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Steve.
So
well,
leading into
the look ahead is the last thing.
What?
The look ahead, the upcoming stuff.
You mean the thing I was just about to say? Yes, I am aware. Thank you. So going into next week, obviously you guys haven't got to buy any time in the next year. So who have the Bucs got next week?
Headed to Buffalo to take on the Bills.
Oh, that should be a good game, actually. Be another test of execution, I suspect.
It's an interesting one. I mean, yeah, it's one of those games again where you look at the rosters and the Bucs should, on paper, win. They're the more talented team, and I mean the big issue with Buccaneers being the secondary. It's not as big an issue against the Bills as it is against most other teams. So I think if the Buccaneers can execute, and if Jameis Winston's playing, which I suspect he will be, X-rays came back negative. He's getting an MRI today, but it seems like he's going to be okay and good to go. You'd have to think, if really that's the kind of game where the Buccaneers offense has to show. And this Bills defense has been playing great.
Oh yeah, the Bills have been playing lights out on defense all year. I think they're one of the bigger surprise teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing as well as they are.
But offensively, they've got major issues. And yeah, Charles Clay, who's been playing great, is out. And Jordan Matthews, I think it's highly unlikely he plays. I'm pretty sure he's out. And this is a team that had very few passing weapons to begin with. And when you look at the Bucs offense, they should really, in spite of how well the Bills have been playing, put up enough points. It's got to come together at some point. And yeah, it's starting to get to backs against the wall kind of time for this team. You know, a lot of teams at the minute. And if they can get it turned around next week, whilst I'm still not convinced by this team, you know, yes, they really did confirm that for me. I'm very concerned about this team moving forwards in terms of playoff prospects. They've got 3 weeks now where they can really turn the season around. If they can win this one, they've got 2 divisional games coming up after that. They can get on a little bit of a run, end up 5-3, you know, beat the Saints and the Panthers, then things look really positive. But I feel like they've got to win all 3 of those games to have a good shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think a degree of consistency needs to be instilled in Tampa.
There's not even a semblance of it at the moment. That's the frustrating thing. It's not like you can even point to one unit, one side of the ball, anything, and say they're consistently playing well on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and I mean, considering the division you're in, in the South, that is not a division to be inconsistent, especially going
No,
into mid to late season.
In some ways, it wasn't a disastrous week with only the Saints winning in the NFC South. It looks less bad than it could, but still looks pretty bad. It's a bad loss, and but we'll see where things go from here. Still, it's been a really weird year. There's a real sort of cluster of teams in the middle of both conferences. Not a huge amount of standouts at this point. So, who really knows? It feels to me like, if you look at both conferences, about 10 teams that could go on a run and put themselves in a good position to make the playoffs.
Yeah, indeed, it is a bit of a mess in the South and generally in the middle of the pack. Well, any final things before we wrap this up?
Nah, nothing in particular.
Just avoiding the injury bug. And unless chat happens to have any questions, we'll start ending it there. So obviously, thanks for joining us in this live stream, guys. Normally we would have the Titans talk, Titans report even after this, but obviously the Titans are playing Monday night football tonight, so that will be moved to tomorrow. I'm not sure when yet.
I've
We'll
not seen
have to sort out the schedule.
Actually, have they confirmed if Mariotta's playing yet, or is it game time decision?
It's a game time decision.
I mean, it's not a particularly attractive looking game either way, but Jacoby Brissett, Matt Castle sounds as bad a Monday night matchup as you can get.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, tomorrow we'll be doing the Titans report following the game from tonight, and also the podcast. There's a lot of news to go through, especially with certain injuries to certain Hall of Famers this week.
Yeah, there should be a couple of reviews going up as well tomorrow.
Ah yes, and of course the regularly scheduled video content from Conboy on the channel will also be up during the week.
Tomorrow tomorrow should be the Bucs Cardinals review, so that one's going to be half an hour of me probably breaking down the X's and O's behind both of these teams being horrible. And then what other games? I'll probably do the Chiefs Steelers game because I think that one was really, really interesting. Yeah. I should have both of those two done tomorrow as well.
Okie dokie, fair enough. Right, so obviously once this video is up, if you could just like, comment, and if you're not already, subscribe to the video. I'll ask him. Actually, hold on. Lee says, are you still going to be able to review the games tomorrow despite the new South Park game coming out?
I am.
You should live stream it, unless you're buying it on the PlayStation like a console scrub.
I could still live stream it.
Could actually. Anyway.
Why would that change things?
Oh, I don't.
I'm not going to. This isn't a let's play as much as you try and make it one with your little pre-shows.
Well, if there was people in the chat, I'd be answering more questions, and it gives me something to do while waiting for you to lazy asses. Anyway, that's been us for this episode of Bucs Banter. And hopefully we'll see you around tomorrow. If you keep up with our Twitter account for Cover Zero, which is @Cover0 Show, to keep updated when we're live streaming and all other manner of stuff on there. Obviously my guest Conboy's Twitter is @SimonConboy, so you can tweet at him as well. I don't think he reads it, mind you, but you could.
I do.
Yeah, right.
Sporadically. I check it at least once a day.
It is the most depressing thing in the world having to use Twitter, but this is our cross to bear. Anyway, right, so tune in tomorrow, guys. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.